I'm just here to vent before I explode. I'm angry. I'm tired of being the helpful sister, the one who always just rolls over and smiles while getting taken advantage of. And I'm tired of pretending everything is okay when it's so obviously not. My sister is manipulative, entitled, and honestly, I think she believes I exist to make her life easier. For context, I'm 34, married to a wonderful man, 36 male, who, thank God, supports me no matter how nuts my family gets. My sister Melanie is 38 and married to Dave, 41, male. They have two kids, ages 5 and 3. I love my niece and nephew. I really do. But I'm not their parent, and I've reached a breaking point with how Melanie treats me like I am. Melanie has always assumed I'll watch her kids whenever she needs me to. Not even ask. Just assume. She'll phrase it like she's doing me a favor, and it's always under some manipulative pretense. Oh, the kids miss you. Or, you said you wanted to spend more time with them. Or the worst one, I know you don't have kids, so I figured you'd like a little practice. That one gets under my skin like nothing else. She doesn't respect my time. She doesn't respect boundaries. Over the years, I've missed date nights, work obligations, and even a vacation because she dropped her kids off unannounced, claiming some emergency that turned out to be a dinner party she didn't want to cancel. Every time I try to talk to her about this, I'm gaslit into thinking I'm overreacting. It's just family helping family, she'll say. Or, you always said you love spending time with them. It's like she twists every bit of affection I've ever had into some debt I now owe her. But this new level of manipulation, it's honestly impressive in a horrifying way. Last week, Melanie sent me a text saying she and Dave had something special planned for me and my husband, Eric. She said we deserve a break and that they wanted to gift us a weekend getaway. That alone raised red flags because she's never done anything like that before. But then she followed it up with screenshots of a hotel reservation, apparently under my name, and all the details about the room. At first glance, I almost got emotional. I thought, wow, did she actually do something kind? But then I looked a little closer at the booking. The hotel was a family resort. Not just any hotel with kid amenities. This was a full-blown indoor water park situation. Giant themed suites, kid-friendly restaurants, toddler play zones, characters walking around the works. It screamed family vacation, not romantic getaway. That's when the pieces started clicking. I went back and reread her messages, and the language started making more sense. She never once said she had paid for it, just that it was booked for us. And the reservation, while under my name, had 2 adults and 2 children listed. My stomach sank. I realized right then that she never intended this to be a gift. She had booked it under my name in some half-baked attempt to make it seem like she was being generous. But really, she was planning to dump her kids on us for the weekend. Probably with some excuse like you were already going to the kid-friendly resort, so it just made sense. I felt physically sick. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't her being bad at planning. This was intentional. She framed it like a surprise getaway because she knew if she asked me directly, I would say no. And she knows I've started to pull away lately. So, she wrapped the manipulation in a shiny bow and hoped I'd fall for it. That I'd feel too guilty or confused to question it. That I'd go along with it out of obligation. I haven't said anything yet. I didn't respond to the message right away. I showed it to Eric and he was furious. He told me straight up that I didn't owe her anything, and that I shouldn't even acknowledge the trick. I agreed, but I also knew I needed to do something else. I couldn't just let her get away with this kind of scheme. Not again. So, for now, I'm pretending to go along with it. I said thank you. I said it looked lovely. I acted excited. I haven't brought up the kids or the weird booking details. I want her to think her plan is working, so she walks right into her own trap. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do when the date arrives. Part of me wants to just disappear, to book an actual weekend getaway for Eric and me, far from that resort, and let her and Dave show up with the kids, to find no one there to take them. Let them deal with the fallout. Let them explain to the hotel why they're standing in the lobby with 2 toddlers and no room in their name. It sounds cruel, But I'm so exhausted by the manipulation. I don't know what else would get through to her, because talking hasn't worked. Being kind hasn't worked. Even distancing myself hasn't worked. She just keeps pushing, keeps assuming I'll give in. I want to make it clear that I'm not someone she can trap, that I'm not some doormat. Just because I don't have kids doesn't mean I'm on call childcare. My time matters. My relationship matters. My boundaries matter. I know there's going to be backlash. She's going to play the victim. She'll cry to our parents, tell the family I left her kids stranded, and say I betrayed her trust. I can already hear it. But I don't care anymore. I've spent too long shrinking myself to keep her comfortable. So this is where I am. Angry, hurt, tired, but also done. Maybe this is petty. Maybe this is harsh. But it feels like the only language she understands is consequences. Comments 1. I 100% understand your frustration, and you're right to be upset. This was a manipulative move. That said, I hope you'll consider the impact on the kids if you let this play out without warning. It's not their fault their mom is using them as pawns. Being left in a strange hotel with no adult waiting could be really scary for them. Maybe there's a way to let Melanie face the fallout without putting her children in the middle of it. You deserve peace and boundaries, but maybe consider a path that still protects the little ones from unnecessary distress. Update 1. It's been a few weeks since everything with the gifted getaway blew up, and I figured it was time for an update. I'm still not ready to respond to anyone involved, but I thought it might help to write this all down and process the fallout because things got way messier than I anticipated. For anyone who missed the original situation, my sister Melanie offered my husband Eric and me a generous weekend getaway. She framed it as a gift, complete with hotel details and a resort reservation already made under my name. Something about it didn't feel right, and when I looked closer, I realized the hotel was very clearly tailored toward children and family packages. There were 2 adults and 2 children listed on the booking. Melanie never directly said the kids would be with us, but the implication was painfully clear. I played along and acted thankful, but behind the scenes, I booked a different vacation for Eric and me, somewhere quiet and far from all the chaos. I said nothing to Melanie and just waited to see what she'd do. I already knew she had done similar things in the past, dropping her kids on me without asking or manipulating the situation until I was stuck babysitting. This time I wasn't going to let it happen. So, fast forward to the weekend of the trip. Melanie and Dave actually brought the kids to the hotel, fully expecting that Eric and I would show up and take over parenting duties while they slipped away for their own adult vacation. From what I have been told, they waited in the lobby for quite a while. When we never showed, Melanie made the choice to leave the kids at the front desk and left instructions that their aunt and uncle were on the way. That's when the hotel called me. I confirmed very clearly that I was not coming, that I had no plans to be there, and that the children were not my responsibility. I let them know that I had been set up without my consent, and I was concerned about the kids being left alone. I did this not to be cruel, but because I wanted to ensure that the hotel staff would take the appropriate steps to call Melanie and Dave back. The kids should never have been left behind in the first place, and I made sure the staff had what they needed to resolve it safely. According to what I've heard, the staff called Melanie and insisted she return immediately. She came back angry and clearly embarrassed, and had to take the kids in front of several guests and hotel employees. It caused a bit of a scene, and her frustration only grew from there. Now she's in full damage control mode. I've received a flood of text from her accusing me of betrayal and saying I intentionally humiliated her. She's trying to make herself look like the victim in this, saying that I tricked her, that I let her children down, and that I caused unnecessary embarrassment. Of course, none of this touches on the fact that she was the one trying to manipulate me into childcare duty without my agreement. Worse, family members are starting to reach out to me, clearly influenced by whatever version of the story she gave them. I'm getting messages asking why I couldn't just say no politely, or reminding me that the kids didn't deserve this. One cousin even asked if I would just apologize and clear the air for the sake of keeping peace. But what peace exactly? The peace where I stay silent while being manipulated. The peace where my boundaries are ignored and my time is treated like a free service. So far, I haven't replied to any of them. I've said nothing, and I'm not sure I will. Right now, I'm just focusing on myself, taking time to rest and enjoy the quiet of the vacation I actually planned and consented to, the one that didn't involve being tricked into unpaid labor. I know this probably won't be the end of the situation, especially with how much Melanie hates being publicly embarrassed, but I also know I'm not responsible for the outcome. She made her choices, and I simply refuse to let her use me again. At the end of the day, I didn't leave anyone behind. I ensured her kids were taken care of the moment it was clear they'd been abandoned. I refused to be manipulated, and I finally stood up for myself in a way that couldn't be ignored. That's where things are for now. I'll see how this will go on forward. Update 2. I was hoping the last update would be the end of it. I really believed that if I stayed quiet, removed myself from the chaos, and focused on my own life, things would eventually settle down. But after what just happened, I can confidently say, I'm done giving anyone the benefit of the doubt. I've been keeping my distance, not because I was afraid or unsure, but because I was trying to give everyone, including Melanie and her husband Dave, some space to process their own mess without dragging me into it further. But they've made it clear that silence isn't enough. They don't just want my silence. They want my cooperation, my apology, my complicity, and they're not above crossing serious boundaries to get it. A few days ago, Eric and I were returning from our regular grocery run. Nothing fancy, just a normal afternoon. We were walking back to our car in the parking lot, chatting about dinner plans, when Dave suddenly appeared next to us. No warning, no message beforehand. Just popped up like he'd been waiting. And I honestly don't know if that's what he was doing, but the way he positioned himself between us and the car made me feel instantly cornered. The moment I saw him, my whole body tensed. I wasn't scared in the physical sense, not with Eric next to me, but the shock and anger were immediate. It felt invasive and calculating. I haven't spoken a word to Melanie or Dave since the hotel incident, and yet here he was standing there with this look like I owed him a conversation, like he had every right to confront me in public. Eric stepped in quickly and told him we weren't interested in talking, and that it wasn't the time or place. But Dave ignored him and kept pressing, asking why I was dragging things out, why I couldn't just fix things with Melanie, and if I was really okay with letting this whole drama spiral, just because of a misunderstanding. He kept raising his voice like he was trying to force a reaction from me, while at the same time painting himself as some kind of mediator. The whole thing was surreal. This man who had willingly participated in dumping his children on someone without consent was now trying to act like the victim of my reaction. I said nothing. I refused to engage because I knew anything I said would be twisted. Eric led me away and thankfully Dave didn't follow. But I was shaking the entire drive home, not out of fear, but because of the sheer audacity and entitlement. My personal space was violated. My patience was tested. And my silence, which had been more grace than they deserved, was met with aggression. I've reached the end of my rope. What I've allowed to slide for the sake of avoiding drama has only encouraged them to rewrite the story and push harder. They think I'm passive, that my boundaries are temporary, and that I'll eventually cave to save face. But that's not going to happen. Since the hotel incident, I've been quietly documenting everything. Every passive-aggressive message, every vague accusation on social media, every guilt-tripping text sent by relatives. I've saved voicemails, screenshots, even the fake narratives Melanie's been spreading to extended family about how I abandoned her children and embarrassed her on purpose. And after this encounter with Dave, I've started logging any incident where I feel physically cornered or followed, just in case this escalates further. What Melanie and Dave clearly do not understand is that I didn't go quiet because I had nothing to say. I went quiet because I was trying to show restraint. I was protecting my own peace. hoping that maybe if I backed away, they would take accountability on their own. That clearly isn't going to happen. I'm not planning to meet with them in person. I have no desire to sit across a table from people who think ambushing me in a parking lot is acceptable behavior. But I have been preparing to speak up publicly and clearly. I'm drafting a message, maybe even a post, and I'll be sending it to the family group chat, or maybe posting it where the rest of the relatives who've been fed lies can finally see my side. Not for pity, not even necessarily for validation, but for closure. I deserve to speak my truth just as loudly as they've spoken theirs. I deserve to clear my name, not just for others, but for my own peace of mind. Letting them keep spinning their story unchecked has been a burden on my mental health, and I'm done carrying it. I won't be bullied into silence. I won't be made the villain because I didn't let myself be used again. They tried to turn my absence into an opportunity to control the narrative. Now I'm going to show them exactly why I stayed quiet for so long and why I won't stay quiet anymore. Update 3. After weeks of being harassed, cornered, and villainized, I finally decided I was done waiting for things to magically resolve on their own. I was tired of the false narratives, the passive-aggressive posts, the pressure from extended family members who didn't know the full story, but felt entitled to weigh in. The final straw had already come when Dave ambushed us outside the grocery store, and I knew I couldn't let this continue. Not for my sanity, not for my safety, and certainly not for the sake of pretending we were one big happy family. So I created a group chat. I added everyone who had been messaging, calling, or tagging me in things over the past few weeks. Melanie, Dave, aunts, uncles, cousins, and even our parents. All the ones who had somehow turned Melanie's behavior into my fault. I sat with the message for a while before sending it. I didn't want to rant or spiral. I didn't want it to come across as an emotional outburst. I wanted it to be cold, clear, and definitive. I sent one single message. No greetings, no apologies, just the facts. I started with a simple timeline. Melanie offering me and Eric a gift weekend getaway, claiming it was her treat. How I soon realized the hotel she booked was a family resort. The reservations were under my name, set up to accommodate kids, not a romantic escape. I attached screenshots, the emails, the hotel booking, the kids' itinerary that she mistakenly forwarded to me, and the messages that implied I knew what to do without her, ever directly asking me to babysit. It was all right there. Then I outlined what happened that weekend. How Melanie and Dave brought their kids to the hotel, expecting me to be there waiting, and how they left when I wasn't. They abandoned their children at the front desk of a hotel, assuming someone else, me, would be responsible for them. I emphasized how I never agreed to babysit, that at no point did I give consent or say yes to their plan. I made it clear that when I was contacted by the hotel staff, I did the responsible thing. I told them the truth. Those kids were not mine and I was not coming. I clarified that I did this not out of spite, but to ensure the kids would not be left unattended. I made sure the hotel had no choice but to call Melanie back. I knew it would force her and Dave to face the mess they created in front of hotel staff and likely other guests. But I did it for the kids because, as much as I'm angry at their parents, I would never let innocent children suffer due to their parents' selfishness. Then I gave a warning. If Melanie ever tries to dump her kids on me again without my clear and enthusiastic consent, I will not be calling her. I will be calling Child Protective Services. I told her she may not like the consequences of treating her children like unwanted luggage. But if she insists on doing so, the appropriate authorities can intervene. I did not stop there. I added that I have kept a thorough record of everything. Messages, voice notes, screenshots, social media posts, even the incident with Dave ambushing us in public. I made it clear that if the harassment doesn't stop immediately, I will escalate. And if that means Melanie and Dave learning their place through legal and social consequences, then so be it. Maybe they will learn their lesson in a setting where they have no access to the children they seem so desperate to be rid of every time they want a weekend to themselves. Then I muted the chat. The silence that followed was louder than anything they'd said before. Not a single reply. No apologies, no attempts to argue, no attempts to gaslight or twist the story. Just complete deafening quiet. It's been a few days since then, and so far no one has reached out. No cryptic messages, no guilt-tripping relatives calling to talk. And for now, that piece is enough for me. I don't know if they've finally understood I'm not going to play along, or if they're just regrouping for another angle, but I do know this. I'm not afraid anymore. I've said what needed to be said. The next steps are on them. For now, I'm just focusing on myself and my own peace. Update 4. It has been a while since I last posted. The last update was right after I sent one clear message in a group chat that included Melanie, her husband, and the family members who had been piling on me. In that message, I laid out the entire situation, exposed her setup, and told her if she ever tried to dump her kids on me again, I wouldn't be calling her next time. I would be calling Child Protective Services. After that, there was finally silence. For a little over a month, not a single word. I thought maybe the point had finally sunk in. I allowed myself to exhale and focus on healing. I didn't trust that they had changed, but I was grateful for the quiet. But then it happened again about a month after the group chat confrontation. Melanie attempted the exact same trick. I didn't write about it earlier because the fallout turned legal. And honestly, it has taken time and energy I did not have. But it's done now. And this will be my final update because I'm finished with these people for good. Melanie never messaged me directly. Instead, I received a hotel booking confirmation out of the blue. Just like last time, same format, reservation under my name. Family suite with arrangements clearly meant for 2 small children. This time, she didn't even bother with a cover story. I assume she thought my lack of response meant I was back to being cooperative or had softened up. I did not respond. I also did not ignore it. I immediately called the hotel, let them know I was not staying there, and warned them that children might be left without proper supervision. I asked them to notify the authorities if no guardian arrived. I also gave them my contact information in case they needed to clarify anything. Sure enough, Melanie and her husband dropped their kids off, spent a bit of time checking them in, and left the hotel. No adult stayed behind. Hours passed. Hotel staff eventually contacted me when they realized no adult would be arriving. That's when I followed through. I called 911 and reported 2 unsupervised minors abandoned in a hotel room far from home. CPS was dispatched and opened a case on the spot. Melanie naturally was shocked when she got a call from authorities, not from me. By the time she and her husband showed up again, CPS had already taken the children into protective custody for the time being. That's when I handed over everything. All the messages, screenshots, timelines, and even social media posts from their getaway nights, where they joked about leaving the kids behind and made veiled references to substance use. I also submitted documentation from past incidents, proving this wasn't a one-off misunderstanding, but a pattern of negligence. The case moved forward. It was slow and tedious, but progress was made. CPS temporarily removed custody from Melanie and her husband while legal matters were investigated. They now face multiple consequences, both parental and legal. I have not spoken to Melanie, her husband, or any of our mutual family members since. After providing the information I had, I closed that chapter completely. No contact, no explanations, no guilt. The only reason I'm posting now is because the case has progressed far enough that I feel safe updating this thread and closing it once and for all. I do not want to keep reopening this wound. I do not want people to keep messaging me about what they said or how they're doing. I genuinely no longer care. I didn't want to be involved in any of this. I wanted peace. And they kept trying to drag me back in. They underestimated me. They thought silence was weakness. They thought they could continue walking over me and using their children as leverage. But those children deserved better. Someone had to intervene, and it ended up being me. I am not a hero, and I'm not interested in being praised for this. I wish it had never had to get this far, but now that it has, I have made my final decision. I am done. I have blocked them on every platform. I have removed myself from every family group. I will not be available for reconciliation. I have zero interest in playing the forgiving sibling just to keep appearances. Let this be the final entry. I stood my ground, I protected myself, and now I walk away in peace. Comments. 1. You warned them, and they chose to ignore it. They abused your silence and treated you like a free service. The fact that they thought they could leave their kids at a hotel and vanish shows how little regard they had for anyone, including their own children. You protected yourself and stepped in when it counted. The legal system being slow isn't your fault, but I'm glad it moved forward. You have every right to go no contact and not look back. You've been through enough. I hope you can finally